Today we will be discussing about SSL certificates. So I'll be explaining what are the certificates, how it works, and more details about it in this session. So here is the agenda. We'll be going through the introduction, then we'll go through use cases of certificates, how it works, what is the history and evolution of certificates, what are the differences in TLS 1.2 and TLS 1.3. Uh, Briefly, we will get introduced to OpenSSL and then we will move on to the best practices and the industry guidelines towards the end. With that, let's move to the first topic, which is the introduction. So in this topic, as we see, right, SSL and TLS certificates, they are essential for making sure that the data that is getting sent over the network is all secured and is completely integrated. It doesn't lose the confidentiality and the integrity of it. We implement it using certificates, and for that, as we know, right, there are several network protocols that are used in over the internet for by computers to make the communication. And for every for every protocol, there is always a secure version of the same protocol. And we can see in this table, like we have HTTP, FTP, Telnet, SMTP, and LDAP. So all of them, you can see there are secure versions of those protocols, HTTPS, FTPS, or SFTP, SSH, and LDAPs, and things like that, right? I'll move on to the next topic. Let's discuss about few use cases, right? So first use case is online banking, in which case, as we know, right? So users log in with their credentials over the internet, and when they do it, if we go without the security, without the SSL certificates, whatever credentials they give, they will be plain text, and obviously any hacker, the person can easily steal those credentials that the user is giving. But if we have the SSL implemented or TLS certificates implemented, whatever data, whatever credentials the user is providing, that goes as encrypted over the network, and that is why it is safe from hacking. Similarly, email encryption is another use case wherein there are a lot of emails getting exchanged between millions of accounts, right? So all of those emails, if there is no security implemented, they will be easy to interpret and anyone can read any other person's email. Whereas with SMTP and IMPS, all those emails are encrypted and they cannot be steal or the contents cannot be read through. Similarly, use case three is about e-commerce. Especially the men in the middle attack is here an example where the customer, as a customer, if we go to any e-commerce website, right, and we add certain products to our cart, and finally when we do the transaction at that point of time where we are giving the banking details, right, the credit card details or things like that. So without security again, those details can be easily stolen and can be used, and the banking customer will suffer a huge loss. Whereas if we implement the SSL security there, then the server identity is verified and we are safe from stealing the card details or banking account details. Third use case is the IoT devices. So in which case there are very smart devices, a lot of smart devices are there, like cameras, sensors, which exchange the data with the dedicated server. In case those are not secured, then whatever data is getting exchanged, they can be that data can be interpreted, as well as those devices can be controlled by the hackers directly, as they are not secured. But with the security, then all the data that is getting exchanged is always secure, as well as the devices are saved from being attacked, or the commands cannot be directly sent to the devices, right? Let's move on to the next topic. which is the how part of it, like how the certificates work, and which is a bit interesting part because I'm going to use one of the movie example here, and which is from the famous Bollywood movie Sholay. I'll play this for a minute and we'll walk you through. So here, as we can see, they are exchanging the certificate, let's say, and they make sure that the certificates are valid. And after the certificates are valid, then they exchange the data. So this I have given just as an example how it is working. So if we take this example here in the actual implementation, this is how we just saw the example, right? The one person was can be considered as a client and the other can be considered as a server. So when before the data actually gets exchanged, there are these two steps that specifically happen. First is they set up the TCP connection, whereas they send the synchronization request and then that is acknowledged. The next one is the TLS or SSL handshake that happens. And this phase, actually the certificates are getting exchanged, and once the certificates are validated, there is a secured line connection that is available for any further data communication to happen, which I have explained here. So phase one is about setting up the TCP connection, where the client sends the synchronization request and the server acknowledges it. The phase two is all about SSL handshake, where client sends supported TLS version cipher suits. Server chooses the cipher suits TLS version and sends its digital certificate. Client validates the server certificate using trusted certificate authority, right? Which is a very important part of the entire security setup that we have. Once this is approved, then client sends the key material, which is pre-master secret, to derive shared symmetric keys, and then server confirms handshake completion and readiness for encrypted communication. So these two phases are the first two phases which set up the base of the secure communication. Once that is available, then the phase three is actually the data getting exchanged, but that this time the data is an encrypted version, right? So sends a request over the encrypted channel, responds with the encrypted content. Hope this is clear. I'll move on to the next slide, and here we'll be discussing about the history and evolution of the certificates or the security, right? So we can see right from 1995, we got this security or the SSL involved or introduced. So we can see the SSL certificates were started from version 2.0. Obviously, it is deprecated now. And then this is how the certificates are evolved over the period. The latest one is TLS 1.3, introduced in 2018. But this TLS 1.2, which was introduced in 2008, is widely used because most of the legacy applications they're still using TLS 1.2, and that is why all of these a large number of applications are still there on the version TLS 1.2. It is always better to move on to the next supported version, which is 1.3. It is very much faster in setting up the handshake, and the encryption is also stronger as all the older or legacy cipher suits are decommissioned from the latest version. Right, so let's move on to quickly look into the differences between TLS 1.2 and TLS 1.3. So when we understand TLS 1.2, we just saw in the diagram, right? So full handshake happens, it requires two trips. So comparatively, it is slower. We'll go to 1.3 and understand how it is faster. Supports older ciphers because it was introduced in 2008. Obviously, it's more than 15 years now. So the cipher suits that are introduced that time are no more the secured ones, or they are older ones. It is flexible but heavier, and as discussed earlier, more of the legacy applications are still using the TLS 1.2 version. TLS 1.3, it is faster because it only has one round trip for the handshake. All the weak ciphers are now removed, and it also introduces a new concept called as perfect forward secrecy. It is very interesting and helpful concept where what it basically confirms is each session is communication uses a unique encryption key. So even if a hacker gets hold of your private key, uh, he or she cannot decrypt past or future sessions. That's what it means. It's like changing the lock of your door every time you leave the house. So stealing one key won't help the thief to, break into the house the next day because the key every day will be changing. So likewise, for every communication, whenever it is happening, a new key is used, and that makes it more stronger. The modern apps are all using TLS 1.3. So it is always recommended that we should move on to TLS 1.3 unless of any compatibility issues or so. All this setup can be quickly done using the OpenSSL tool. So let's get introduced to this tool. So OpenSSL is an open source toolkit that provides cryptographic libraries, which are basically the algorithms for encryption, decryption, hashing, and signing. We can implement the SSL and TLS protocol using this one, and it also gives us command line tools for managing keys, certificates, and secure connections. Um, Along with certificate management, OpenSSL is used for testing and debugging purpose as well. OpenSSL can be used by multiple roles like developers, DevOps resources, as well as testers. And here is how. So developers can inspect server certificates or debug handshake issues, right? So similarly, DevOps people, they are the main users of OpenSSL, wherein they can create the keys, they can create the certificate signing requests, they can create the certs, things like that. Similarly, testers can use OpenSSL to validate the certificate's validity period, right? So from when it is valid up to what time it is valid and things like that, their TLS version. So all those verifications, the testers can use OpenSSL to do the verification part. Now let's quickly close this discussion by using what are the best practices in the industry. So there are many. I've tried to put them together. We'll try to explain it one by one. So we should always disable old protocols, right? So, and that's where the point is anyway, SSL version 2, version 3, TLS 1.1 and 1.0, they are all deprecated because they were very legacy protocols. But even TLS 1.2, right? Even that is now legacy, and we should use TLS 1.3. We should prefer that as it provides stronger security. We should always protect the private keys because the private keys are the ones using which the entire certificates are created, and the whole the setup is based on the private key. So they should be stored securely and with restricted access. We should use strong ciphers. So some of the cipher examples are provided here. Um, we should block the weaker cipher, right? So it goes without saying. Enable perfect forward secrecy. We talked about it some time ago. Rotate certificate regularly. So it should not be the case that we have a certificate in place and it is there, say, since years. That is not a good practice. We should keep on regularly renewing the certificates. Obviously, the renewal period might differ application to application, but at least once in a year, the certificate should be renewed. At least that statement is valid for banking applications. Use mutual TLS wherever needed. So verify both server and client is sensitive system. And lastly, follow security standards like OAuth, SPAN, NIST, right? So these are the standard rules or protocols using which we can set up the security. So these are the trusted security guidelines for crypto and certificates. Uh, Hope this session was helpful. In the next session, I'll probably go ahead with some of the OpenSSL commands and we'll discuss more about it. Thanks for your time.